right, Wolfpack, welcome back to another episode. I have a special guest for you guys today. I'm really excited about this one. Most of my guests I don't know on a personal level. This individual, I've gotten to know him over the year. He's an Army knife. If you were to use Army knives, like that's what your background is. It's very impressive. So he has an athletic background, which looks like CrossFit Games team athlete. Also recently did a triathlon, took first place in his weight class. Also podium finished in the Iron Games recently as well.
Yeah.
So he has a very, very extensive athletic background. On the opposite end of that spectrum, a software engineer. As much as he loves physicality, he's also a very cerebral person. And it's one of those things that if you were to judge a book by its cover, you wouldn't notice when you see this man's man sitting in front of me.
For some reason, people think I'm an angry person when they first see me. I hear that all the time. They think I'm just going to be mean.
Yeah.
But I think it's the beard.
And he's a father, he's a husband, he's also an entrepreneur as well. Super impressive, man. Thanks for coming on, Jordan Berroteran. We appreciate you. Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah.
Thanks for the coffee as well. Cheers. When it comes to athleticism, when it comes to that athletic prowess that you have, I think it's really interesting to kind of hear how that came about, right? Because you don't have a background of sports.
Right.
So let's talk earlier. What got you into this CrossFit machine?
When I was a kid, I played a lot of video games. I thought I was going to be a professional video game player. That's what I wanted to do. I went into software development. The more I worked in software, the more I felt like a video game was just this box that I was contained in. So I got away from video games. And in that same period of time, I started doing like boot camp classes and weightlifting and like bodybuilding type stuff. My dad would bring me to the gym and he kind of made me work out at first, but then I kind of fell in love with it and I started going a lot by myself. And then somebody came in, I was doing a boot camp class one day and somebody came in and said they tried this workout program over in Dallas and they were doing lunges with a plate over their head. Mm-hmm. And they said it was the hardest thing they've done. And I was like, oh, whatever, I can do that sort of thing. So I went home, I grabbed a plate, I tried to do lunges and I couldn't get my arms over my head. You know, they were like stuck here trying to hold a plate over my head.
Yeah.
And I immediately fell in love with it because it was something I couldn't do. And I was like, I thought I was fit. I thought I could do like, just because being in boot camp classes, I felt like I was like, you know, the top person in those classes. I was just running the show, leading the group sort of thing. Like I was pretty fit in those classes in that small pond. Right.
Where does that stick-to-itiveness come from? Because that's not normal, right? Like you talk to the average child, right? And if they're not good at something, they don't even want to do it.
They want to get away from it. Yeah. I don't know where that comes from, but I think I've always been that way. I'm definitely that way now. Whenever I don't know how to do something, I want to figure it out. Like last night, I was up till 1 a.m. trying to fix my heater because I didn't know what to do. The only thing I could really think of is that I think my dad probably instilled that in me really early without really meaning to. And I don't know how or where that came about, but I know that I've always been in school. Like there were some things that I could care less about. Like we were talking before about this, like in biology, certain sciences and stuff, I just kind of like got through it as I could. But there were other things that like it really bugged me if I didn't understand something. And so I had to figure it out. I had to figure out like, why doesn't this work? Why don't I understand this? And how? So I don't know where that came about.
That sounds more like an engineer's.
Maybe that's what it is. Mindset. Yeah. Right. And I think that's just the way my brain's wired. Mm-hmm. And that's why I'm an engineer now. I think I always knew I would be going to some kind of engineering. I didn't think it would be with computers at all. I wanted to do mechanical engineering or some kind of architecture or something like that, building things. Mm-hmm. My mom used to joke all the time that I would try to fix everything with duct tape. Anything would break, I'd try to pull out duct tape and try to fix it. And I would spend hours trying to fix it with duct tape.
That's awesome. And so if you were to, and this question is always a little bit tougher because it's so broad, who's Jordan early context?
Jordan early context was video gamer, not an athlete at all. I probably ate a whole pack of Oreos every other day. And I never ran. I never worked out. All I cared about, I would skip classes to go play video games in college. Mm-hmm. Because that's just what I thought I wanted to do and try to be a professional gamer. So that's who I was early days.
Does your family or your parents or grandparents, do they have any sports or athletic background? Because it's so hard to wrap your mind around if anyone sees Jordan in a gym, if they were to work out with you or see you, how fucking strong you are.
For sure. I think I'm definitely lucky to have some of the genetics. My dad didn't really play any sports. My mom didn't. And so like my parents didn't, like when I wanted to play sports when I was growing up, they wanted me to, like my dad took me to football practice all the time, 4th and 5th grade. Mm-hmm. But I got into 6th grade and I got away from the football team and then I never played sports again until I got into high school. I started doing stuff with JRTC. So I was like on drill team doing, spinning rifles and carrying a flag around. I did a little bit of orienteering, which is running through the woods, but I was awful at it. I've always been running. I've always struggled at it. I'm still working on it, but that was the most of my sports until 10th grade. My dad started making me go to the gym. I guess the other thing that I haven't mentioned yet, I was bullied a lot growing up too. And so I think that was maybe a reason why I kind of got away from playing sports too. When I was in middle school, I know I came home a lot upset because people were always mean to me because I was a little kid. I was smaller than everybody.
Really?
Yeah. I like very vividly remember at some point in high school when I started working out, people started leaving me alone. And I really just think it was because I started getting bigger. I started working out. Maybe it was a self-confidence thing, but people started leaving me alone. And then after that, I started doing just bodybuilding kind of stuff all the time. But I didn't really but I was definitely like a nerd growing up. I played video games. That's all I was focused on. I wasn't into girls. Like I wasn't into boys either. I just wasn't there was plenty of times that I'd rather play a video game than go hang out with a bunch of girls or something. That's just what I did. I ended up needing in college, I needed one extra credit to finish my total amount of credits. And there was a weightlifting course. I went to LSU in Shreveport, so that's where Kendrick Ferris, he lifts there. That's where he's located at, Olympic athlete Kendrick Ferris. Mm-hmm. And his coach, Kyle Pierce, who has coached him for a very long time and gotten him and other athletes to world teams. He was my coach for the weightlifting program. I didn't know who these people were either.
Yeah.
I just, he wrote the programming and we went in and we squatted 3 times a week. We benched 3 times a week. And I think that was it. And my very first day maxing out, I did like a good morning at 365 pounds.
Whoa.
And people were like, that's not normal,
That's
dude.
not normal. That is not.
So, cause we were supposed to max our squat and it buried me. And I just stood it back up but it re-racked it.
You said something interesting, which was I was bullied as a kid.
Right. Yeah.
And if anyone knows you or has been in your presence, you are probably one of the most kind, you are the most welcoming person. And again, that's counter to what you'd believe like when you first see you. So do you think that value system started then?
Absolutely, from being bullied.
Yeah.
I think that's it. If I were to see somebody being bullied on the street now, I think it would trigger something in me. Like I'd get angry really quick. I wouldn't do anything right off the bat, right? But I would definitely feel inclined to step in and try to stop it and break it up and maybe even teach a lesson if I could, because I was bullied a lot. And it definitely I've just learned because of that to be kind to everybody.
And I think it's hard for me to picture that as the people watching this. So what, when you mean you were bullied, what do you mean?
People, names all the time. My last name is awkward. It's weird, especially, Berroteran, and so people would use that as a way to mess with me and get inside my head. Just different names like Berroteran, like Megatron, but Berroteran.
That's actually badass.
Yeah, it is cool now thinking about it. But as a kid, it's like, what? Why are you calling me that? Other people would make up songs to it. I remember in the locker room, people would just talk trash to me, and say mean things, talk about how I look or whatever during gym class, or they weren't very nice to me. Nobody was really ever physical with me, but I know there were plenty of times that somebody kind of shoulder checked me or something. I was just smaller than everybody. And I remember being smaller than everybody all through grade school. Everybody was taller than me. Everybody was bigger than me until my senior year. Then I started I hit a growth spurt.
Were you pretty young for your age?
Yeah,
were you the youngest?
I was the youngest in the class.
On the young side.
Yeah,
me too.
Yeah, my birthday's in late August. Yeah, so I was just a small guy, and so I was easy to pick on. And I think people could see the emotions too, and so people feed on that, right? I think that's just human nature, because my kids do that. That's just boys being boys sort of thing. I think because of that now, I've definitely learned. I think all through high school, all through college, it's I can't be mean to people. That's not in my nature. And sometimes that's a curse too, right? Because then sometimes you can be too nice to people and then it ends up it's definitely going to backfire.
Well, in your personal experience, do you have any stories around that?
Recently we bought a house and I just trust people too much now because of that. Because I'm nice to everybody, I think I instantly trust people first, and then I don't really think about it enough like I should. I've learned a couple hard lessons recently. I bought a washer and dryer from some lady when we bought the house, and I've bought used appliances plenty of times before. Never had an issue. This washer and dryer, the second I hooked it up in the new house, it was leaking. It was running water everywhere, and it leaked through the roof and caused some damage.
Did you reach back out to her?
I couldn't get a hold of her, and I paid her in cash, so I couldn't do it. I couldn't do anything about it. So that was hard lesson. Another guy, I paid somebody to make a cabinet door for me because we remodeled our whole kitchen. And that guy kind of ghosted me. He said it would be ready, and then he said again that something happened and it would be ready coming up later. And then he ghosted me after that. I haven't been able to get in touch with him. And so it's just like it's just money. Like money comes and goes, right? Like you can make it back, that sort of thing. And I think that's that entrepreneur mindset you were talking about at the beginning of this. Mm-hmm. Those are lessons I've learned in that aspect, but I've also learned that I can't just trust everybody anymore. I've got to really think about like what I'm doing now, especially as a dad, 4 kids with a like head of household. You gotta be a little bit, I gotta think a little bit bigger picture and not be so easy to be fooled.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's tough because you want to give everybody kind of that, benefit of the doubt type of mentality.
Like this kid showed up at my house saying he could make a cabinet, right? And he took measurements and dimensions and stuff. And I was like pumped for him to do it. And then he was on the way out. He was like, well, this is our process. We take half at the beginning and half at the end. It was only $60 that I paid him. So that's all I lost. It's not a lot of money, but it's still just aggravating.
You 100%.
Because I trusted him and he built some trust with me and he was super nice. And then he even acted like he was going to make this thing for me and then just ghosted me. And so it's kind of like, those are like, that's like a lesson of you can't trust everybody and you need to really figure out if you need to do it in a way that's going to prevent them from screwing you back over. Yeah. Unfortunately.
I think that there's a universal lesson in that. I'm glad we got to this place because I have a sales background. So I know all about pouring honey in your ear and you know what I mean? Telling people you promising the world and then not giving those expectations. That's like the average salesman will just, I'll do this. When it comes to ante up,
that's your job. It's to sell something.
Yeah. I think there's a way to sell, but like a more moral way to sell, because if you're not going to do it, then don't tell them, right? Sure. Don't just sweeten the pot. And so I think just finding individuals and instead of listening to them, like, yeah, we have a verbal agreement. I don't know if that exists anymore. At least for me in business, that's been out the window since I was 18.
It doesn't exist for me anymore.
Right. Yeah. And so more mapping to the behavior. Like what does that person's behavior, because that speaks way louder than your words will.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to promise anything and say anything, right? Talk is cheap. The axiom that I live by now is talk is cheap. Actions can even be fabricated over a certain period of time. For 3 weeks, I can pretend, but patterns will never lie. Like patterns are gold type of thing. So if it's like, I can count on this person or this person has time I have invested or done something, like it's always turned out positive. Like I can count on that person. And that just takes time and it sucks because, there's times where there's a time crunch.
You got to learn how to check who you're going to trust. Yep. And it's easy to trust people when you're used to trusting people because most of the people I hang out with are trustworthy people.
Yeah. So true.
And then I get around these people they're probably struggling and they need to make a quick buck, and that's what they're doing to make a quick buck. And that sucks. Mm-hmm. So and that's why I kind of like, at first I was pissed. Like when I hooked that washer up and it leaked everywhere, I was really upset about it because we just bought a house and all these other things. And then I was like, this is probably this lady's scheme to make money and karma will pay her back in a negative way.
Yeah.
Like karma will come back around and she's probably going to get screwed again. So that's just like, that's kind of like my way of accepting it is like, I'm going to get good karma by like just leaving this alone, like build up a balance, leave this alone. Like, don't worry about it anymore. Move on. And somewhere around the world, it'll come back and pay her back. I don't have to worry about it because she's going to get what she deserves later.
So true. So true. Yeah. And that's whether you want to be the enforcer of that karma or not.
Yeah.
It's like most times you're like, water off a duck's back, water under a bridge type of thing. So getting back to what eventually got you to the CrossFit Games, how long did you train with that guy?
1 semester. So it was like 6 months, 5 months-ish. Something.
And then after that moment, you continued with powerlifting or with Olympic lifting, or did you continue with CrossFit?
While we did that weightlifting course, was at the same time I started getting into CrossFit. So I'm almost 20, I think. I was about to turn 20, or I had just turned 20. So that's how long I had played video games up until that point. So I did that weightlifting course and realized, okay, I'm pretty strong. Somebody else introduced me to CrossFit. Fight Gone Bad was coming up, the first one that I did, which was like the last like sponsored Fight Gone Bad that CrossFit had done that year. So I went and did Fight Gone Bad, got my ass kicked by literally every older man there, much older than me. And so that again, like motivated me. I was like, all right, like I can do this. I refused not refuse. I didn't see the benefit in joining a gym at the time. And so I just started investing in my own gym equipment and buying like what I could for at home. I had literally a 33 millimeter bar, which is like the bigger bar that you buy at Walmart with metal plates. And that's what I was learning to snatch and clean on. So normally you use a 28 millimeter bar. This bar is half a centimeter thicker. Yeah. And that's what I'm learning how to snatch and clean on out of my garage with metal plates.
It probably helped you in the long
probably
run.
helped me a lot.
It probably made it harder though in the beginning, right?
Yeah, it made it real hard in the beginning. So, but at that point, I think I was just obsessed with the idea of going to regionals. That's all I've ever wanted to do was go to a regional competition as an individual. And I still have yet to achieve it, but I've come pretty close a couple times. But what I learned from that too was that like, it doesn't really matter if I go to that level because for one, I've been able to do the highest level on a team. And two, I'm starting to learn now that everything that I've done over the last 10 years training wise is made me who I am today as far as a dad and an athlete and a coach and all like everything far greater than competing as an individual.
I want to echo that too, because when I started entrepreneurship and got really serious with I co-founded a business at 18. So a streetwear brand, right?
Yeah.
And I wasn't really all in. I was wishy-washy. Then I found CrossFit a few years later and then loved it, fell in love with it. And then after about 6 months of continuous CrossFit, I built that self-belief, that inner strength to take the plunge and do another business.
Yeah.
Solo this time.
Yeah.
And then just continuing with that sport.
Yeah.
Everything adjacent has benefited from it, from getting to that place where you want to give up or, you want to beat your time or that incremental growth that you see and you want to apply that to every aspect of your life. Yeah. So what lessons would you say have impacted you the most?
From CrossFit? From training CrossFit?
Mm-hmm.
Everything.
Everything, yeah.
Gosh, dang, dude. Most recently, like I said, we just moved. Right after we moved, we wanted to renovate our kitchen. We really wanted to do it like within a weekend or two. That was far-fetched to think that we could do that. Like there is no way you could do that in a weekend with the amount of work that we wanted to do. Even if you wanted to, you have to wait for things to dry. Like you just can't do it. So
that's my toxic trait is underestimating everything I do. I could do that.
I highly underestimated it. But the thing that I realized while I was doing this whole renovation process, there were so many nights where I stayed up till 12, 1, and 2 in the morning, and then woke back up the next morning at 7:30 a.m. because I still have a full-time job and I still have kids to help take care of, and I still want to train. I didn't train much during that process, but I did. But the thing that I noticed during that process was just like, that's just like that grit, like staying up to 1 or 2 in the morning to get things done because like you either do that or you're going to live in this mess for 6 months. So suck it up, like suck it up. You're going to be fine. You can catch up on sleep when you're done with this. Definitely take a break when you're done with this and catch back up. Like make sure you're balancing both. CrossFit, like just that mental grind of doing these long, hard pieces and being able to talk yourself through, you're fine. Like just get through this next piece, like taking one step at a time, taking that one next piece at a time. It kind of encapsulates everything so that way you can actually finish something like from start to finish and you're not just letting it drag on for forever.
Yeah.
Like you're going to finish this and you're going to be okay and you'll be all right.
Yeah, that's so true. Saw you when families went camping. When I saw and I spoke with your wife, we sat down and we just saw how you've upgraded your whole camping situation with things you use when you camp out to the tools and everything has been incremental growth where you identify this tool or this thing or this, upgrade would have been better for next time. And then you apply that, right? So you're identifying where you want to grow. And then the next time you add that. And so that incremental growth, that's the lifeblood of CrossFit.
Yeah.
Measuring your time, measuring your mile, measuring your back squat, measuring your strength, measuring everything,
and
right?
You're not going to get better at everything right now. But like if you just keep stacking, like the whole habit stacking principle, right? If you keep stacking this one little thing on top of another, you do that for 30 days and then for another 30 days and then for another 30 days, then like a year later, like you're just doing all those things out of habit and you don't even think about it. And that's the same, like CrossFit is that, like training is that, because you're just like, all right, this is what I suck at. I used to be awful at burpees, like just holy crap, I couldn't do them. So then I started doing 100 3 times a week for a warm up. So 100 takes you 10 minutes. Like it's not really that long. It sounds like a lot, but it's not really that long. It takes you 10. If you're out of shape, it might take you 20 minutes. And then if you're out of shape, that's a good workout, But then after doing 100 3 times a week for a month, like burpees just became easy. So, but you can't get good at everything at once. You got to break it down and like work on this one little thing. But then years later, it's easy now. Like, it's just like, you want me to do this? Okay, that's fine. I can do that.
I love how it also shines your light on your weaknesses.
Yeah.
You can't hide.
Yeah. Which is, again, the original reason why I got obsessed with CrossFit, because it shines a lot of light on what you need to work on.
Yeah. It takes a special individual, especially to get to your level. I really love diving into that from your mindset, right?
Yeah.
And so on that, what advice do you have? You know, we're in Utah, and it seems like we're getting a lot of young and up and coming athletes coming out that are like ready to go to regionals, ready to go to the games, or already competing at that level.
Yeah.
What advice or what do you want to share with them? You know, since you've already been there, since you've been doing this for over a decade.
So it's both. The thing that always rings in my head, Asa Basco, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I remember watching an interview with him, I think in 2014. And the thing that he said was like, don't forget to have fun. Like, and I think that's like the thing that you have to remember over everything is like, if you're not having fun, you're not set up for long-term success. And so for me, like CrossFit is like, it's competitive, but it's also just my fitness. Like, so I go through these seasons where I'm not training competitively because I'm not having fun doing it. But I'm still training. I'm still getting out for 30 minutes, 40 minutes, whether I'm going out for a run or going to lift something really quick, even if it just means doing a 5x5 squat. Like, just do something that sounds fun today, because that's all going to build on top of each other in a year or two from now. Like, that's all going to, in a year or two from now, you've done all this work and you've built this huge base of fitness. And so now if I want to go back and be competitive again, I'm still ready. Like, I can still do that, even though I didn't have to commit those 2 years to be competitive. Like, and I think that's like, that's so that like the important thing is like, you got to make sure you're having fun, because if you're not, like, you're going to burn out. And in 2 years from now, you're going to say, I don't want to do this crap anymore.
Right.
And then you're going to be done. And then you're going to move. But then who knows, 5 or 10 years from now, you're going to regret it. Like, why didn't I keep doing that? Like, it wasn't that hard for me 3 times a week just to go and keep working on fitness a little bit here and there, you know? So yeah, like, make sure you're having fun. And, yeah, I think that's the most important thing.
So what I'm hearing is practice patience and enjoy the process.
Yeah. Enjoy the process, practice patience, because even those, again, that bleed into the rest of your life, you know, like as a dad of 4 kids, 2 of them being boys, rowdy boys, because they're 8 and 6, man. Yeah. And they wrestle a lot and they get loud a lot. And sometimes I'm not patient and I get frustrated with things. But at the same time too, if I wasn't doing CrossFit for this long and I wasn't being patient with my progress and stuff like that, who knows what level of patience I wouldn't have coming into now with the kids, you know?
Yeah.
So like, it bleeds into a lot more of your life than you realize.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. There's times where you're with your newborn, or you have to stay up all night. You know what I mean? Like, there's certain things that you can feel it. I mean, you're another level, because I'm even thinking back to, you did the 12
heroes.
12 heroes.
Yeah, with OUR.
And you were speaking to that. You're saying that's even a deeper level of like, I did not know I was capable of this.
So 12 hero workouts in one day, one every hour on the hour. And it's not like, you're not just doing 5-minute workouts. Like, the first workout is Holly Man, 30 rounds of 1 clean, 3 handstand pushups, 5 wall balls. So 30 cleans, 90 handstand pushups, and 150 wall balls. That's the first workout of the day.
Wild.
And so I get done with that and I'm like, holy, like, how am I going to do 11 more workouts? Like, I'm exhausted already. Yeah. But then by the end of the day, the last workout's Murph, which everybody knows what Murph is, and it's awful and it hurts. You finish Murph with the weight vest on. It was partitioned, so it wasn't 100, 200, 300, but it's still hard. By the 12th workout of the day, it hurts, man.
Do you remember your time with that? After 12
I think I was around 55 minutes or something like that with doing it the Cindy version. Yeah. Shit. So it was like 6 degrees outside too. When we did, it was freezing.
Dude, that's some David Goggins mindset right there.
Well, that was in my mind during that whole day. Yeah. Like, that guy, we watched 14 Peaks actually the day before. Oh, so that was in my mind too. Because these guys, you know, do crazy stuff in just like a month or two like that. They climb 14 peaks, like something crazy. Spoiler, I'm sorry if I messed that up for anybody. I hope I did it. Go watch that movie if you need some motivation, because it'll make you realize, it'll make you put things in a perspective that like, you're going to choose what's going to be hard and what's not going to be hard. And it really is up to you if you want it to be hard or not, because whatever you tell yourself, that's what it's going to be. You mentioned having a newborn. And 12 heroes makes you realize that like, there's really nothing that you can't accomplish if you don't want. Like, I just did 12 workouts the other day. I can sit here with my baby and help her fall asleep for an hour or two, like if that's what I need to do, because like that's nothing compared to, you know, the mental strength that it took to get through 12 workouts back to back.
100%. That's so true. And it's so empowering too when I hear stories of ultra marathon runners or all of these different competitions that humans actually do these extraordinary feats of athleticism. It's so empowering to me. And I hope that, you know, our listeners and the people watching, I hope you guys frame that in an empowering way and take back like those lessons and say like, if that person can do it, I can do it too. And humans are fucking amazing, right? Because the other side of that, the reframe of I could never do that, that's physically impossible, those people are superhuman, is a disempowering thought.
Absolutely.
And I've noticed that I had a post go super viral when I was echoing a sentiment that I read it in some book, which was essentially humans were meant to be, to run 45 miles a day. Like we are designed biologically to move the extent of what it would be to exert yourself for 45 miles, literally daily, right?
Yeah.
On a daily basis. And that to me, it was so empowering. I'm like, yeah, I'm a fucking human. Let's go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I got thousands of comments of people saying, that's no way. That's not real. That doesn't exist. You know what I mean? And the story was like, we're essentially terminators to the animal kingdom because there's a thing called persistence hunting.
Yeah.
And we did that for, you know, whether it was 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago. I mean, there's tribes still that do it today. You can look up BBC 8-hour hunt, and it shows a tribesman. I think he's in the Tanzania tribe. I'm not sure exactly. Hunt and do that. Jog for 8 hours.
I was going to say, that's when they just chase an animal until they're completely exhausted.
The animal falls down from exhaustion and gives up.
Yeah.
And then that person takes the animal's life in such reverence, though. More primal dynamic. It was wild.
Yeah.
You know, because I read that, but like seeing somebody actually do that in real time.
Yeah.
2022, you know, or maybe it was 10 years ago, but
I saw something similar with a kid in like Australia that was doing that, and he would just make YouTube videos for fun, and he wouldn't kill the animal. That wasn't his goal, but he would literally chase down the animal until he caught it, just to prove that he could catch this animal, you know? So this kid also picked up venomous snakes and stuff like that, did crazy stuff. He was like one of the early guys on YouTube to do that. But yeah, that's a thing. Like eventually, like who's going to win, you know? I agree with you. You said that humans can, 45 miles a day. I agree with that. Like there was a guy, I met him when he passed through my hometown of Shreveport. He walked from Florida to California. And his goal was 30 miles a day. And I'm pretty sure he consistently walked 30 miles a day. So if you're jogging, like why not 45 miles a day?
Yeah.
You know? So, but you're right. And people are saying too, like you can't do 45 miles a day. Well, maybe you're not walking 45 miles a day or running, but you're doing enough activity to cover 45 miles a day.
Yeah.
And if you change that same amount of activity to walking or running or jogging, like, yeah, you probably could, if you wanted to, hit 45 miles a day. Yeah. You're just going to have to get used to it at first. It's going to suck at first, but then you get used to it. And that's a stimulus, right? That's what training is. You create a stimulus and your body adapts. And you're right. Like that's what we're made to do, is adapt to a stimulus. Yeah. And so that's why we have all these superhero freaks, because dude, they adapt to the stimulus and they stop telling themselves they can't do that. And instead they do it. Speaking of superhero freaks, is that 382-pound clean and jerk you did during 2007, is that still the record for the game? No. So at that games, I set the record at 382. Then the following heat, another guy hit 387. Oh, okay. I always regret that though, because I firmly believe I could have hit 392 at that day, but I wanted to be the first person to clean 400 pounds at the games. And so I made a jump from 382 to 402 immediately. And my midline was smoked at that point, and I shouldn't have made that jump. I should have just taken a 392. That's like getting greedy, right? If you get greedy with money in the stock market or something, it's gonna backfire. So that's the same thing I did with that clean. Is I got really greedy. I wanted 402. I'd actually hit 400 the week before that, in our tapering and our working up to the games. So I was confident that I could do it, and I tried 402. But I missed it. I got it to my shoulder, and it just buried me. And I missed it. So, but I am proud still to have hit 382 at the games. I remember walking out, and this guy who knew me on the brute strength team, he bumped me on the shoulder and he was like, "Hey, did you hit a 400-pound clean?" And Rich Froning was right behind him. He goes, "Somebody cleaned 400 pounds?" I was like, "I tried, but I couldn't get it up, man."
That's a dope story. That's really cool.
I
So
think
what is the record so far?
The record right now, Guy at Wadapalooza a couple weeks ago, I think he hit 397.
Oh, shit.
392 or 397.
Mm-hmm.
But it was really easy. Like he probably could have put on another 10 to 15 pounds.
Is he that British?
He's Brazilian.
Brazilian. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But he trains with Rich Froning and he's honestly probably the strongest CrossFit athlete out there. And I say strongest CrossFit athlete because he's also like, if you took all the strong CrossFit athletes, if you put me and Tola and Guy, and I'm sure there's a couple of other that I'm not thinking of, but if you put us three together, I would say he would match our lifts or better, but also probably beat us in any Metcon. So that sort of thing. So
interesting.
I'd say that he's the best, well-rounded and strongest CrossFit athlete.
That's dope. And is he younger or how old is he?
He's probably 22, 23. He's a lot younger.
So he's got some
almost
time.
10 years younger.
Whoa.
Yeah, than me. So
he's got some time. That's awesome. So you basically alluded that you're Hercules. I'm going to contrast the Hercules strength that you have with the software developer that you have been also doing. Because again, you're busting through these boxes that people want to categorize themselves and others in, which is there's no way this guy, Hercules, is also super cerebral, software engineer.
Can't have both.
Computer. You can't have both.
Yeah.
But you are both. You've been doing that for about how long?
Almost 13 years.
So 13 years.
Including my internship.
So how did you juggle those two things? Or did that also help you with CrossFit? Because I don't know if people realize this. To even train at a competitive level, that's like a full-time job.
Is a part when I was training for like the games, and so I went to regionals on a team I think 3 times or 4 times, and every time it was a 20 hour per week of training for sure. So it's a part-time job. Yeah. And then a full-time job working software. So doing both, I thought about this the other day too for some reason. But I remember this thing that John Wellborn said. He's the owner of CrossFit Football, and that's kind of what I started following in the beginning. So I was like obsessed with like what he had to say, and like one of the things that he made, like a point that he made very early on that I've always kind of lived by, is even if you don't feel like doing it, start on it, like give it 15, 20 minutes, and then if you still don't feel like doing it, then like call it a day, like it's whatever. So I've always applied that to training, and I think that applies to anything really. But I've always applied that to training. So like working a full-time job and then getting home and I don't want to train, but I'm going to go out there and I'm going to warm up and I'm going to move. And then if I feel good, then I'm going to train. And then if I still feel good, I'm going to keep training, that sort of thing. And so that's kind of how that worked. But you can apply that to anything, right? Like if you want to start a business, like nobody really knows where to start or how to start right off the bat. No. Like you got to start and dig into it. And then you start figuring things out. And then that's when things start coming together and you're like, all right, this is fun. Or it may not actually be fun right now, but then you start seeing something pieced together, and that's where you're having fun. The other day also I saw something like you're not motivated, your action creates motivation, sort of thing. And I think that's something that The Art of the Impossible. But he explains the psychology behind all of that. So that's a really good book to check out. Like if you're like wondering like do I get motivation and where does it come from? He talks about that cycle of like action into motivation into something else and then back into action. And it's like just this circle. Yeah. But it doesn't start with motivation. It starts with action. Yeah.
It's that you just have to start. And that's something that I've done in my life over and over and over, whether it's like getting back on the bus with working out or going back to the CrossFit gym or training MMA or doing boxing. It's like, you just have to start. Yeah. And then everything else kind of falls in. Yeah. It doesn't nothing falls in place, but at least you have the signals to know where you're supposed to pivot and navigate as you're oriented to this new goal. Yeah. Right. But it's interesting because some people think they can think themselves into like this perfect business scenario, this perfect entrepreneurial endeavor, and they're like, I'm going to get my ducks in a row. I'm going to have my business financing. I'm going to have my business plan.
I'm going to have everything perfect first.
The graphic design, and then I'm going to start, and then I'm going to be a millionaire or 6-figure.
Then you'll sit forever trying to get everything perfect.
Yeah, and then when you start, you're going to be like, none of that fucking mattered. Yeah, all of that shit's going to get thrown out the window. So there's so many different variables that you just can't consider before you get started. Yeah, and so the idea is just start. And then your motivation will come, like you're saying, that like action loop. Just start, then the motivation comes in the action. I think it's just like taking those steps, the next step to solve the problem. Because that's all we are. That's all you are in business, a great problem solver. Because every day, just like in this like little microcosm example of what we dealt with today, the live turned off, like everything was malfunctioning, blah, 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 blah. Like
if we had waited for everything to be perfect to start this, we'd probably still trying to get everything to be perfect.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's just not how the world works. And I think that's like something you have to think about. Like, I just need to start working on this and I can figure the other things out as I go.
100%. What have you learned that you could maybe share with the listeners being a software developer for 13 years? You know, is there anything we can extract, any value that you can extract from being in that industry?
Well, I guess like the number one thing is that field's never going away.
Okay.
Right.
Even with Chat GPT?
I think so. I think because like even that is scary. We were talking about that the other day. But yeah, I think there's not like this upper limit of things that can be developed, but it's going to be really hard to replace a human brain that can think on the fly versus a machine. A machine is still a machine. And it's still boxed in somewhere. Like, there's still some limit to it. I did have a friend that I work with. He said that he wrote a program the other day that can take, he wrote a program. He pretty much asked Chat GPT to write a program to do something for him, and it did it in a couple seconds. Yeah.
And would it take him?
And it wrote the software for him. So now he could tinker with that code.
But it would have taken him how long to do that?
It probably would, for what he was asking, it probably would have taken an hour or two to do it, but it wrote it in seconds. Right. But it's just the idea that it could write it in code too. It didn't just give him the answer. It actually wrote the software to do what he was trying to do. So yeah, I mean, technically there could be things that take away the software job, but also like who created Chat GPT, and then who created, like a person created that, a human created those things. So like there's always like somebody has to be the brain behind the software at some point. Could we lose like some lower level software development jobs? Yeah. But like also, is it going to know how to write that software in a way that could be built upon later on with these other ideas that are coming downstream? Probably not, unless if you want to teach it, because it's based off machine learning, unless if you want to feed it this like series of data so that way it knows that like these are my future plans. So I need to write it in this way so it works in the future. But then what if those plans change? Just like we talked about, like, we don't know really what's going to happen 6 months from now. What if it changes? And what if we need to create all this, like restructure all these things? The AI could still just rewrite you a new set of code, but then like you're going back and forth with this new set of code all the time and trying to implement. I don't know. Like, I don't see humans working on software going away, at least for a really long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I read a book back in 2014 called Bold. Another one, 0 to 1, by Peter Thiel. A lot of these guys that were writing these books were venture capitalists in Silicon Valley. And in 2018, I talked to a group of high school students that were at-risk youth because I was at-risk youth. I dropped out of high school at one point. What I told them was, because I was so immersed in AI, they talked about AI. And so I told students back in 2018, and I recorded it, and I'm glad I did. I said, some of you guys are going to go through college and not have, and by the time you get out of college, you're not going to have a job waiting for you. And so then fast forward to 2022, ChatGPT launched, and finally kind of was like, oh, this is the AI possibility. Because this is just one application. Like, we're not talking, like you're talking about chat that's able to write sales copy, marketing, and then there's other AI that's able to generate images. You can create movies. You can create scripts. It's literally
almost anything.
Endless.
Yeah.
So I think the top 20% of every industry is going to be like, they'll be good. But I think there's that 80% that you're not going to be good anymore.
Yeah.
I think we're just like scratching, like we're at the tip of the iceberg of what actually exists and what's going to come in the coming like 2-3 years.
Yeah.
Short term.
Yeah. No, I agree. A lot could change. And it's impressive, dude. Like people talking about how they've had songs written by just training the machine learning. Family Guy, they recreated a whole Family Guy thing. I don't know if it was a whole episode or a clip or something, but I saw recently that they like took a Family Guy episode and made it an AI generated like live action thing, but it's all AI generated. The whole argument the other day, is it plagiarism or not if it's created by Chat GPT? Like, because who created it? Like, did you create it because you asked it to, or did it create it and the writer of that software create it because they trained? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's
I think the people that are going to win are the people that own the data.
Yeah.
Or that can assimilate the data, because, even pointing back then when I was reading these books, the main concern was like go into data engineering. You're going to make 200,000 a year. And it's not necessarily, I think the benefit doesn't come from just aggregating data, but it's the prompting around the data. Like what are you trying to figure out with that data? That data set, 1 billion points. Okay, that doesn't mean
That's
anything.
nothing, yeah.
That is like a bunch of information. But I think the job that's going to pay out, like what computer engineering and software development pays out, or your data scientist, is prompting. How do you prompt these?
How do you
the AI
train the AI to use
to
this
look
data?
for?
Yeah.
I'll use a real life example. We'll take the audio from this podcast episode. I upload it to ChatGPT. And then the prompt is write a paragraph that's enticing. What am I going to learn for YouTube specifically? Make it less than a paragraph or 2 paragraphs.
Right.
Brings back that first iteration. Then you say, okay, now extract, let's say, 3 core things that the viewer is going to get from this. Okay, boom. Now I use that as well. And then make it funnier or make it more engaging. This is interesting. Make it more provocative.
So people will click on it.
Yeah. And then now give me 10 titles that you think are provocative or that would be good for YouTube. Like you could talk, like it's crazy, dude. And it does it like that. I don't think people really are able to wrap their head. Like Peter Thiel called it out. Elon Musk obviously was the founder of the company that created ChatGPT. I think these people see it. I think the barrier of entry, though, for these technologies was, and ChatGPT busted it down, was user case. Like, why were users going to want it? Like, how are you going to get these people? And then they did it the day they launched. They had 1 million people engage and sign up for ChatGPT, which is more than Facebook, Instagram, MySpace, TikTok, like every social media platform.
I still haven't played with it. And talking about this now, it makes me want to. And it gives me ideas on what to do, too, as far as like entrepreneurship and like the things that I'm working on the side, right? So
that leads perfectly into, if Hercules wasn't enough, CrossFit Games Athlete, competitive CrossFit, software engineer, software developer wasn't enough. He also is an entrepreneur. And this is a newer endeavor for you. This is, you launched your...
It's FBA,
okay.
fulfilled by Amazon. A lot of people, I see ads for all the time saying that this is dead. Like this business model is dead. It's too highly competitive. I definitely got lucky with the product that I picked right off the bat. But also like, it's not dead. Like there's an endless amount of products for you to pick, and there are an endless amount of people that want to buy that product. So you can make a business almost out of any product. You just got to keep trying, and you got to like learn the game of Amazon and how to sponsor things and how to like rank your pages high, just like you would anything else, just like this podcast or any other type of social media. Like what drives this website, and how do I get my product to rise up on it? But honestly, I swear by it, because it's changed our lives. Like, I have probably close to 10 products now, and 2 of them, one of them is great. One of them is, I think, steadily rising. The rest of them are kind of duds. They sell when I advertise them. They don't sell outside of advertising. So, but like the opportunity is there really for anybody to make money on any of these products. And so that's kind of like what, like I kept also on the flip side of it being dead, I kept getting ads for, hey, you should try this. Like you should try selling on Amazon. And I was like, screw it. Like I'll invest some money. I started getting into the stock market at the same time or right before that. So I wasn't really afraid to lose money, because the stock market, like if you're going to invest in the stock market and if you want to make money, you got to be ready to lose money. Right. So then you start like getting okay with the idea of like risking a few $1,000s, right? Like,
wait, you have to risk money to make money?
Yeah. That's kind of how it works. So.
It's bullshit, man. I'm getting out of this entrepreneurship shit. Yeah. So what have you learned dealing with that? What can you share? Like somebody's thinking about doing that right now, right? Somebody's
specifically
listening.
Amazon FBA,
they're
or
like,
just entrepreneurship?
I want to do Amazon FBA. So what would you say? Like because I know you came across a lot of pitfalls too.
Yeah.
There's kind of also some negatives to FBA, right?
So biggest negative to FBA would be somebody could steal your product if you're not trademarked. Then literally that's my main product. The product that brings us in the most income is also sold as generic. So anybody can list that product on that listing page at the same time. I didn't know better at the time because that was my first product. So I should have branded it, and that way I could leave it just to me, and I would be the Amazon choice on this product, and I'd be making probably 3 times as much. So don't make that mistake. Like don't. But that's, I don't know. That's like part of that whole research thing. Like I'm going to research it until I figure it out and it's perfect and get it going. I could have done that, but maybe I would only be starting now instead of a year ago, you know, and then who knows if somebody else would have had that idea first. So we could argue back and forth about that all day. But it doesn't really, like, I jumped the gun. I made an investment. I tried to make it work, and I did make it work.
Nice.
And it's at this point now we do really well with this one product, even though other people could technically also sell it under the same page with the same reviews at the same ranking. They can literally just take over the product page.
So how do you outcompete it? Is it just purely advertising? Like the way that you're advertising or the money that you're throwing into advertising? Because I'm not familiar with Amazon at all.
At this point, well, so outcompeting it to start, yeah, it was mostly image and product page is how you outcompete other products. Okay. Like professional images, you spend the money to buy, you know, to hire a professional photographer. Can ChatGPT put out, if I were to type in a product name, professional images, would ChatGPT give me some?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not ChatGPT, but the other AI.
Another AI machine learning thing. So the reason I asked that is I guess maybe it's worth your time now. Like if you want to be an entrepreneur, you're going to have to be ready to learn things on the fly. 100%. And so maybe it's time now to learn how to take some products that you want to sell, similar products, and train a machine learning algorithm to create these professional images and save you. I mean, you're saving $300, but at the same time, for somebody that doesn't want to, has a very limited budget, like that's $300 that you could spend on product or something else or advertising. So try that out. If that doesn't work, get your professional photographer to take some product images of whatever. Let me back up. Okay. Before you get product images, you need a product, right? So the way that you start is the way we started was we went to Amazon to buy something and it wasn't there. And we were like, this is actually two of our best products.
Do you want to say what it was?
No, I don't want to say what it is. It's something that I don't want somebody else to come in and just be like, all right, he said I could steal it, so I'm going to steal it. You know, not only that, but I feel like this
So you're alluding to something that I'm trying to figure out now with what we talked about. We texted each other. I was like, I'm thinking about doing this with my community audience and launching this type of business. I talked to a guy. And he told me, and he does Amazon, and he does $1 million in sales. He still, to the day, even though he has trademarks in this, he can't stop China competitors. He can't stop people from. And so he's like, do direct to consumer.
Yeah.
So okay, let's take what you know now, and let's rewind before you started. Would you build a D2C brand?
Probably not.
Or would you still be doing Amazon?
I would probably still be doing Amazon because people trust that product, that platform.
Yeah.
And I know people will go directly to Amazon to buy things. Yeah. Like you don't go to Walmart to buy things anymore. You can go, like, you don't look for, you can. Right. But the first thing I know that most people do is they pull out their phone and they check Amazon and then they order it. And if they can get it same day or next day, they're going to buy it. And I think that I'm sure other platforms will offer that, but it may not be as quick as what Amazon is. And so like, he's right. Anybody could come in and steal his products too. Like you could put anything out there in China and somebody in China could see it and they have all the manufacturing equipment right there. So they're already saving thousands of dollars on shipping costs. Yeah. So they can just go ahead and make tons of it there because they can get all the data that they need to say, oh, this product is making this much profit per month. And then just like they kind of screw you over, right? But it's also going to take them time to build up the reputation for that product. And then they have to rely on the reviews for that product. And if their quality sucks, like their product's not going to take off like it really could. So,
yeah. Do you see the interesting position that we're like when we're having a conversation where you're like, I don't want to name the product, where in other contexts, you're like, no, this is my website. This is my product.
That's true.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're promoting.
Normally you should promote your product because you shouldn't be worried about somebody stealing it.
Right.
And you're right. So that is definitely a pitfall of being on Amazon. Like, yeah, anybody could come and steal it, but also I don't have to handle any shipping, any returns, 100%. I don't have to talk to any customers. No, I don't have to do anything. Yeah, Amazon takes a piece of what I make because of that. Yep. But also I'm making, I mean, I think last year we did almost $300,000 in sales.
Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. So
that's your first year in business.
And that was my first year. Yeah, dude. So that's what I'm saying. Like, why not? You know, the investment I started
with. What are profit margins with that, with Amazon? 30, 20%?
40%.
No,
about
that's 40%. Great.
Yeah,
that's great.
Like if I didn't take that step and I tried to do it all on my own, like who knows if I would have made it this far. I would have been overwhelmed because I have 3 kids to take care of and a full-time job. Yep. You know, I got lucky. I don't doubt that. I don't take that away. I got lucky with the first product and I really did. But the opportunity is out there for anybody else to find their first product too, right?
Yeah.
And start making. My initial thought on it was like, maybe I'll make $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
Like, and that was it. Maybe I'll make out $500 a month and cover a car note. That was it. Like something simple, just, take some stress off of some other income sort of thing. But it turned into a business, and I love it because of that, because we wouldn't be in this new house. I wouldn't be able to take care of my family like I am now. Like we wouldn't be able to, like, and so, yeah, like they take a good chunk of what I'm in, like what I could be getting if I did it on my own.
Yep.
But also that's the same thing as like if you're paying an employee to help you with your time and do something else on the side. Like Amazon is kind of, if you think about it, like my own employee, like I'm paying them to take care of all these pieces. So I don't have to worry about it, but I'm still making income. So it's worth it to me.
So just to break it down so it's easier to visualize for listeners and viewers. So what he's talking about is that if you were to create your own product, there's so many different parts to what that is, right? So it's the finding a manufacturer.
Mm-hmm.
It's the putting in a product order. So once you figure out what product, or let's say you invent a product, whatever, like find a product, you got to get somebody to manufacture that product.
Yeah.
So you have to put in a shit ton of money up front, right?
Mm-hmm.
You put in a product order, you get that. Now where are you going to put it? Are you going to do it out of your garage? Great. Okay, but what if you're successful? So now you have to get a warehouse.
But at this point too, who says you have a garage? Right. Like if you're trying to make more money, who says you have, like if you're just starting out, I feel like most of the time people are in like a really small place. They don't have a place to like, that's why they're trying to make more money.
Exactly.
So.
So what I'm saying, you didn't have to do that because you're in with Amazon
right.
FBA.
Yeah.
So then you have the product, then you have to distribute the product. So then you have to ship that product as well. So then you have to do inventory, then there's customer service. When you really start calculating the overhead costs, and this is something that every person starting out with business and entrepreneurship needs to be able to see and consider, which is, do I have the capital? And most people don't when they really calculate. The best advice I've gotten in the last 12, 13 years myself was expect 10 times more.
Yeah.
It to cost 10 times more than your initial guesstimate.
Yeah.
And then expect it to take 3 times longer than what you initially, the time frame for success. And that is a more accurate picture.
And keep in mind too, is like, I'm making it sound really simple, right? At first, the first few months, it was not simple. Like I had to do a ton of research. I had to find product, and I had to figure out my pages and get professional photos and figure out how am I going to optimize this, and what's the best like price points and all these other little things that, you just learn along the way. So I spent a lot of time, like you said, 20, 30 hours per week for a few months figuring these things out. But once you get it rolling, like I think like any good business should be, like once you get it rolling and in a rhythm, things just keep going and keep working, they keep churning on their own. And so that's like kind of like why I think it's worth it. Even if you don't want to do Amazon FBA, like figure out a business and a side hustle, because like that income potential is unlimited, right? Like when you're a business owner, it's unlimited. My route to that to start was Amazon FBA because that's what made sense to me at the time. And I'm going to keep doing that and keep trying to find products because I know that the potential is out there to be like making $1 million a year just by keeping product in stock.
Is your goal net or gross? $1 million?
Either way.
You're like, I'll be good with either.
Yeah, I'd be happy. Regardless, I'm making more than I am now.
Is there a way to sell your Amazon FBA store?
Yeah. Okay. I think people, you can
sell it. I think I've seen that actually. I'm a part of a mastermind group where people will invest. They have like a fund that they put together and then they invest in FBA. They buy like 10 of them, package them up and sell it to a bigger private equity company.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, that was the pro and cons for me, because for me in entrepreneurship, I've gotten to a place where I'm building assets, right? Because I sold my first business at 24. And I was like, oh, this is a thing you can do. Yeah. Like when you put this all together and you figure it out and you brand and you market, like then you can sell this entity. Like just you're using another business as the title of like what you do. Amazon FBA, not Jordan's FBA, not right. Jordan's, this is my store. So that was kind of a red flag for me. But now that I've seen people like they sell for 1.5x on revenue monthly, then you sell your store either at an annual point, it's either a 1.2x multiple or maybe even a 1 multiple, or sometimes they just want to get out faster. Like I'll just sell it to you for 50,000 and I'm out.
Yeah. And so I don't know, maybe some people would be like, why would I do that if I have this income rolling in already and it's a steady state income? But at the same time, now you've taken your initial $5,000 investment, You've turned it into $100,000 and you sell that and you get $120,000.
Yeah.
Now you can put that into another business that maybe frees up your time and gives you, you know, the peace of mind of with your family and whatnot. I'd love to open a CrossFit gym. We haven't done it. I've talked about it for years. I think I'd be really good at it, but also I don't want to take the initial investment into it. But like at the same time, like if I could sell my business on Amazon, my products that I'm selling for 150, 200 grand, then I'm kind of like free. I got a free start to a gym now.
Yeah.
Like I can start a gym with that money.
Yeah.
And then I enjoy writing software because it keeps my mind rolling, like my mind going, and it pays the bills. It pays really well. So I enjoy it. But at the same time, like I think I would enjoy just being outside and coaching people all the time. So like that selling this one business, I turn it into another business and roll that into something else. Like that would free up my mind a lot and my time. And so that sounds like that's kind of exciting to think about too, you know?
Bro, and I think people really lose sight of how fluid you are. You're listening to this and you only have you're in a career job and you've been doing that for 10 years, or you're just starting a career. Yeah. And you're like, man, if I could just make this money and do this thing, I'll be good. It's like, you're going to get there and then you're going to look at another horizon. That's just natural human progression and evolution. And that's okay.
Yeah.
You know? And so some people think that that's the end of their race. And it's like, well, you've got to run that race, learn everything you're going to learn, and then decide again at the end of that race or at the top of that peak or at the end of that horizon. And that's okay. And that's what it is to be fluid and human.
Right. But the thing is that in that whole process of being successful in FBA, I've learned so much about being an entrepreneur. And I've gone from being terrified to spend $2,000 on the initial product, thinking I remember telling my wife, like I was a mess. I was like, dude, I just wasted $2,000. Like I'm never going to make this back. Mm-hmm. To now, I don't think I would really hesitate I haven't done it, right? Cause I haven't had the time to open a gym, but also if I went to the bank to take a $50,000 loan or $100,000 loan, I'd be like, all right, cool. Let's do it because I'm going to figure it out along the way. So it's built my confidence. Like just starting any business and figuring all these pieces out is going to build your confidence up for the next big thing in your life. 100%. Like, and to free you up a little bit more, to live your life a little bit better.
And that can only be built through exertion.
Yeah.
Otherwise it's delusional confidence and that won't help you in it. And
it goes back again to like, you just need to start doing it. Yeah. Like just pull the plug, dude. Start, go for it. Go do it.
Just go. Yeah. Just start and just adapt and then just fucking succeed, bro.
Yeah. Like if you're scared of something, go do it. And you'll figure it out along the way.
Oh yeah. Don't be scared to have a little bit of egg on your face either, because you're going to fucking fail 1,000 times before you succeed.
Yep.
Okay. So that leads into, what does your CrossFit career look like? Does it look like opening a gym? Does it look like coaching the next generation?
I've never gotten my L1 because I've never seen like the reason to get it, you know, the level 1 certification for CrossFit. Because I've never really, I don't want to say this in a way that people misinterpret what I'm saying. I enjoy coaching anybody, but I really enjoy coaching competitive athletes because I've been there and I understand what it feels like to compete and succeed. So I would love to coach competitive athletes. When I coached my son's soccer team, maybe I'm a little bit too competitive, you know, when they were like 7 and 6 and stuff. But at the same time, I loved it because I loved seeing them go from these kids that they could barely run. You know, when we would do warm-ups, they would trip over their own feet over the ball. Until by the end of the season, like they were handling a ball and passing it back and forth and working together and stuff. I love that. And so it's the same thing with CrossFit. Like I would love to open or have seminars or something like that to teach people the competitive aspect of CrossFit, to help them learn how to compete better.
Yeah.
You know, because I've been doing it for almost 10 years now, CrossFit as well. Yeah. And so I've learned a lot just from competing a lot. So I don't know if that's like exactly where my career takes me next, because I'm still like wrapped up in all these other things. If I were to open a gym, I would definitely be focused on trying to teach people how to be competitive and like kind of like get into that next stage if that's what they're interested in, right? My goal is still to make it as an individual to a regional, or now it would be semifinals, right? I've always wanted to do that. I've never done it. I've come close. Every year I think I get a little bit closer, but then life takes over too, and you know, things change a lot. So that's always going to be my goal. And then the other on the back burner, it's always, well, I'm almost 35. So that puts me in a master's division. So I'd love to try to make it a shot at the masters of the CrossFit Games, you know? So if anything, the t-shirts motivate me a lot. Those very personal t-shirts, they make different styles every year. The only way to get it is by being an athlete at the games. That motivates me like a lot, because that's like, dude, if I see somebody wearing that out in the street, I'm like, that person worked hard for that shirt.
So do you see yourself also continuing with computer?
I think I'll always write software, so long as obviously AI doesn't take over my job like we just talked about.
No, man, you've been doing it long enough. I'm sure you're in that top 20%.
I feel like I feel like I am. Yeah, I've been doing it long enough. But
have you had the same employer the whole time?
No, I've worked for 3 or 4 different companies.
Okay, so let me paint a scenario for you. You're netting $1 million annually with your FBA store. You're still working as a computer engineer.
So that's what I've always told my wife, is that I would probably keep working, but I wouldn't be afraid of losing my job. Like, like I would do, like if I want to work, 30 hours a week, or if I just want to be there for meetings and be consulting and running the show behind the scenes, I'd probably migrate into something more like that, or a contractor or something like that. I'd probably keep working for them though. I love the company. It keeps me thinking. It keeps me, I don't know, like it's just something that I enjoy doing. But I wouldn't be so concerned about whether or not they need me tomorrow if I was netting $1 million, because I would have, I'd have my income and it wouldn't matter.
So true. Okay. So you're still doing that. And then the business, your goal, what is your goal for your entrepreneur career? Does that include continuing FBA and then also possibly opening a gym?
Possibly opening a gym. That's something my wife and I talk about a lot. We've also talked recently a lot about designing or constructing some way to help pregnant mothers postpartum, during pregnancy, with workouts, with nutritional advice, with mindset coaching, that sort of thing, kind of like trying to fall into something like that. My wife, we're going on our 4th kid. The third, Lila, was born at home. And since then, my wife has kind of become obsessed with the idea of pregnancy and being a mom, and rightfully so, because it's a very empowering thing. But as we've come into that, we've realized that like we're really well versed, and especially she is, in nutrition and working out and motherhood. And so we'd like to package those things together. So that's probably going to be a sooner adventure than it would be a gym. But I think that the potential there is also limitless as well. What are
you guys thinking? Like an online community, like a subscription box model?
Most likely an online community. That's the way I'd like to go. I'm not a big fan of subscription stuff, but that's also the way that the rest of the world has gone.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It just depends on what we're releasing to, the type of content that we want to release, and the way that we want to help mothers take care of themselves. I think that's what originally brought on the issue, is just like it's so easy to get so involved with the rest of your life as a mom that you forget to take care of yourself. Mm-hmm. And it's easy just to get away from the things that you should be doing when you get pregnant and your life has changed completely. Because pregnancy, like that's what it is. Like your life has to change completely. Mm-hmm. So like we've talked about and toyed with the idea of like figuring out, how do we help these women that they deserve to take care of themselves, to be healthy, to mentally be prepared. Like, how can we help them? What do they need? And I think we have the capacity to do that.
Yeah, it's definitely a holistic approach. So we're probably gonna have to do a part 2 with that.
For sure.
A lot of times we're highlighting masculinity, highlighting men. I mean, this podcast, we've had a lot of very successful people, but I haven't done a really good job of outlining the struggles. I haven't done a really good job of outlining the pain. Yeah. And, we both started reading a book called The Boy Crisis that really identifies and really shows a light on, holy shit, mental illness, suicide rates.
For men.
For boys. Yeah. What things do you struggle with? Like, if we were to, and answer this however you want, like just to humanize you a little bit, because you're right now larger than life. You have a successful FBA business.
I'm spitting out all these good things about me. Yeah.
So what, just remind people, like, that you're human and that you have things that you struggle with.
There have been so many times where my wife has to like talk me through the things that I'm upset about and the things that get hard. And that's normal. Like, I think that's going to happen to everybody. And especially if you've got your hands in so many pots, right? Like, you're going to be stressed. Things are going to be hard. Like, you're going to be upset. You're going to be sad. That's just, unfortunately that's a part of life, and you wouldn't have the highs without the lows, because they're high because you experience these lows, right? And so like, I think that's just something that it's never easier to deal with when you're upset or stressed about these things. You just got to have the team around you to pull you through. And finding a good team is like, that's a part of life with anything else. Finding good friends, people that lift you up, people that don't talk shit on you behind your back. So my wife, I love her because she keeps things real with me. She's not afraid to call me out on things. Even I've told her before, I'm like, if you think I'm being a bitch in a workout, tell me, say, quit being a bitch, Jordan. And she literally says that to me, and it immediately snaps me out of like being a little wimp and getting inside my head and stuff. And then in the real world too, like whenever I get stressed about money, like finances, right? Or the kids or something, she's like, hey, like chill out. Like this, the greatest thing she ever said to me when we first got together, I remember freaking out because I didn't know how to deal with these two kids, because I didn't have any kids at the time. And she had a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and they were wild and crazy. She was like, they're not going to be like this for forever. So like things are going to change, and you're going to change with it, and we're going to grow together, like growing together and changing with it. Like just be prepared to do that. And take it like when shit gets hard and you're like in this really deep hole, like you just got to kind of take it literally, again, goes back to CrossFit, like one step at a time. Like, what do I need to do right now to get through this? And for me, almost every time it's, I need to go take a nap. I need to sleep. I need to be quiet, or I need to go on a long bike ride. Like I need to go do something on my own to clear my head out. Like you're going to experience hardship and dark times and like things and that's why.
What was your lowest point?
I think my lowest point was coming like in 2021 was the last time I went to regionals. And after that season, I think we competed in Las Vegas at the West Coast Classic. And after that season, I was kind of like, I don't know what to do with my life right now, because I was like in this in between of like, I want to compete, but I want to be a good dad. I want to get this business started. I think that was when I was starting Amazon FBA stuff. And so I had my hand in a lot of pots and a lot of fires, and I didn't know which one to focus on. And I knew I couldn't focus on being competitive at the highest level and also do these other things. But I really wanted to start being a good dad, because I was spending hours a week at the gym away from my kids, right? And so I remember being really upset at one point, and like literally just laying in bed for like a whole day because I didn't want to do anything, because I was like, dude, what do I do with my life? Like, I don't know what to do. And I would say like that was probably like a really low point for me, because it was like I had this whole identity shift at that point in my life for like a month or two. And finally, after a couple of months of like thinking about that and feeling that and going back and forth between these, like, what do I do with my life now that I don't really know? Like, cause I'm capable of competing at this level, but I don't know if that's what I want to be doing and should be doing. Right. And so I'm chasing something that I may not even want anymore. After a couple of months of that, just like she's kind of like learned to be there alongside with me and just talk me through things and get me through things. So that was a really hard shift. And I think a lot of athletes go through that. And
can I ask you, if you were to extract either a lesson or something that will help somebody listening, what pulled you out of that? You know, what was it, incremental, or was there like
it's
things
incremental
that you did?
No, it's incremental, and it takes a lot of time. I see people talk about how sad they are and depressed and stuff. And like, yeah, like it's everywhere.
It's fucking
and
everywhere.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard. And it's a struggle, because it feels like, cause you have no reason to be sad sometimes, but you just feel sad.
You just feel sad.
And you just feel upset. And so that's why, like, that can either like confuse you and make you more sad, or you can recognize like, I feel sad, but I have no reason to be sad. And so I know I'm doing everything right. So I need to just take this one day at a time and just work, like get through this. And then I think other than that, like it's really about like following some basic principles of like what we're meant to do as humans, like get sunlight, eat food, sleep well, have sex, like be like, do we have these?
Dude, you laugh, but that's so important.
It is important. And I laugh because I don't know if my mom's watching this or whatever. So she's fucking.
Bro, everyone laughs when we talk about sexuality. It's just
Isn't that funny? As an American, the American culture is afraid to talk about it.
So the stat is staggering. So I think males between the ages of 20 and 30, a third of them haven't had sex in the last calendar year, meaning like they haven't had intimacy with
and that's the thing.
being.
Like, it's not just having sex, it's intimacy. We're social creatures.
Yep.
And we need to be around other people and talking to other people.
To take you off topic, because you are good. Like that, what you were saying was like, boom,
Getting out of the hole.
sunlight,
Yeah.
all that
Movement,
stuff was
sunlight,
so powerful.
eating, sex, getting back to the basic principles of humans, because you don't need to be taught to do any of those things. You just do them. And like work your way one day at a time. And eventually like you start to accept the situation that you're in. And then at that point you can decide, am I going to take control of this and am I going to fix what keeps upsetting me, or am I just going to accept it? But either way, it's okay. I think like you can accept it and be like, and understand it. It's just going to take time. I mean, those are probably the same steps that you go through with grief, right? Like there's like 5 stages of grief. And you just like, if you understand that you're going to go through the stages of grief and just like get through each stage one at a time, then that's just like all you can do. Like accept the situation that you're in, and either you can make the changes to start trying to come out of it, or if you accept it and like maybe that just helps you get out of it eventually. But like bottom line is like things will change again. Like you're here because something changed. Things will change again, and eventually like you'll get back to this level ground of like, all right, I'm okay. Like I can focus on my family now, or I can focus on my business, or I can focus on myself.
Yeah.
But either way, like I think you just need to accept that things are going to change again.
Yeah. Yeah, man, that's so good. That's such good advice. That's advice, and that's a perspective from somebody who's going through it, who's experienced it, who's not just preaching from a mountaintop. Like you're going through the motion, you're experiencing that. So, dude, so insightful, so helpful. Where can people find you?
Instagram is joe.bear. I think it's 2 R's, JO.BEARR. And that's pretty much it. And honestly, as I've gotten older, I've gotten more away from Instagram too. So I think my time is, my wife posts a lot and she posts a lot. So I try to actually focus on her platform for that a little bit more.
Do it. What's her platform?
Jordan.Ellis. I think it's like 2 D's though, something like that.
And just to, if there's any way I can edify you guys more, it's like every gym we've gone to, your wife has now joined this CrossFit, and man, like everybody's chatting about how strong she is, and she's how many months?
9 months pregnant.
9 months pregnant.
She's like 8.5. We only have 4 to 5 weeks left.
She's warming up with 45-pound plates.
Yeah.
Like, dude, you guys
tough.
are both just fucking savages in
Again,
the best way possible, right? Savages in the gym, mindful and holistic, and just like, that's why we've gotten along so well. I just appreciate you coming on. And what's interesting is like, I still have so many subjects that I want to talk about that we could deep dive and talk about. So we're going to have to do a part 2 to this.
Well, if I didn't bore people, then I would love to come and talk. I feel like I can talk all day, and that's what gets me in trouble with my wife. Anyways, she's like, come on, let's go. I'm like, I'm talking. An hour later,
that's so true. That's so true. That was one of the first things I noticed about you. So how friendly you are, how nice you are. So if you ever see Jordan out and about in the wild, man, go say hi, because he would love to talk to you.
Give me a hug and go say hi.
100%.
If any of you ever want to reach out to talk about, what do I do next sort of thing, definitely hit me up. I feel like I can give a lot of advice on like what to do next. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's following in my dad's footsteps too, because I feel like that's what he did with all my friends growing up. So, but yeah, hit me up on Instagram if you ever want to chat, or if you're wondering, or you're curious or something like that. So I like talking to people, so I'm okay talking to strangers. So.
I love that. And if on the off chance you're a competitive CrossFit athlete, reach out to him too, because he might be opening up a gym soon. So,
yeah.
All right, brother. Wolfpack, if you got any value today, please like, subscribe, share this episode, rate and review the podcast, man. It would really help us reach a wider and broader audience. Follow us on all platforms, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.